Hello and welcome to the next episode of Hear the Lion Roar, the Primis Propositions podcast. I'm Matt Brown, Head of Mortgage and Protection Proposition.
And I'm Nikki Hemmings, the GI Proposition Manager.
So today we are actually pairing up a couple of people. So we've got two guests today. We've got a lender joining us alongside one of our regional sales directors. What we're looking to do is to twin together a couple of subjects. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is what Primis are doing to support people who want to get their CMAP qualification. So a little bit of insight around that. And then we're going to move on and have a little look at greener mortgages. And we've got a lender just talking about their carbon offset mortgage. So Nikki, I've hinted a little bit, we've got an RSD. Who is the regional sales director who's joining us today?
Wow. I am very happy to share that I have worked with this RSD for many years now, including before our Primis days at Personal Touch. He has been in the industry for 14 years, and I think most of that has been in training. He's recently moved from being a training director here at Primis to be part of the sales team as an RSD, which is absolutely smashing. It is my pleasure to bring on Dave Woodbridge to this episode of Hear the Lion Roar.
Hey, welcome, Dave Woodbridge.
Welcome, Dave.
Are we? You okay?
Good, thanks, you.
Really good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
No worries, mate. Lovely to see you. So I'll try and do an intro as good as that one, Nikki, for our next guest. So we've got a lender joining us who is a top quality corporate account manager. He's a real big supporter of Primis. He's also got extensive financial services experience. So he's been in the industry the exact same number of years as me, 17 years. He's got the hairline to show it. Let's welcome James Chutter. Hi, James.
Thanks, mate.
Welcome, James.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, and thanks for that very kind introduction.
No problem at all, mate. Lovely to see you, and really interested to hear some more stuff about the Leeds today. So, thanks. Excellent stuff. So, Nikki, do you want to start off with the questions with Dave Woodbridge?
Let me start off with the questions. Dave, this is going straight into you then. So we've heard off Matt in his introduction that Primis are going to be supporting CMAP courses in the very near future. For people wanting to get into the financial services, tell us more about that.
Yeah, so it's been a little project we've been working on for a little while. And I think, it's something, you mentioned my previous background being heavily involved in training and development. And I think Primis want to help and support the advisors of the future, ultimately, that are looking to get qualified and work in the fantastic industry that we all work in. We've clearly, within Primis, got about 1,000 firms that are continually looking to grow their businesses as well, and looking for that horrible expression, but fresh blood, for want of a better word, and how they can grow and develop their advisors. So it's something that has been a kind of aspiration for us to be able to offer CMAP training to somebody who is looking to get qualified. And then there'll be options available to those individuals upon completion of that, whether it be employed roles within the network, self-employed roles within the network with lots of support, clearly. But the main thing is getting that nice tick in the box to demonstrate that they've got their qualification with the right level of support at that point in time.
That sounds absolutely brilliant. I mean, great help to get into the industry and also to get into one of our firms as well. So, with the exam, then I'm assuming that it's they register with a regional exam centre and they do the exams there. How is that actually done?
So, how it will all work? We working with, I should say, very closely with the LIBF, the London Institute of Banking and Finance, who've been an incredible support working with us. And we've committed to 4 rounds of CMAP training, CMAP 1 in one course, and that will be a 4-day virtual course, and then a secondary 4-day virtual course for a combined CMAP 2 and 3. The COVID has taught us, everybody, a lot in terms of what is possible through the virtual world, as we're finding out being on this podcast this morning. So the way it will work is the courses are virtual. On completion of those courses, then the recruit, the delegate, has the ability to to then book their exam. And again, this isn't a Primus thing. This is an LIBF kind of innovation, which is the days of having to go to a kind of test centre, as probably some of us on this call have had to do previously, and sit your exam. Really innovative. The LIBF now offer the ability to do your exams at home. Certain things you have to do, like show your front room and check you haven't got all the answers up on the behind you on your wall. But what it really enables us to do as a network with firms all over the UK is they can send their new recruits who are hungry to get into the industry on a virtual course without hotel costs and so on, which again, we may have had some of those challenges previously. And then if somebody wants to, they can then sit their exam virtually. Now, they do have the choice of going to a physical test centre, because some people may still prefer that route. But that's the joy of, I guess, the virtual world that we all live in. It's opened a few options for everyone, which is great.
Absolutely, Dave. Sounds brilliant. Why are Primus doing it then? So what's our thinking behind it?
I think, Matt, for me, it's a case of, we as a network, we know that people, the first kind of route to getting into a firm within Primus is the CMAP qualification is you must have this before you join us. And so we know our advisors of the future are out there getting it somewhere. So the important thing for us is that Primus give that additional layer of support. And I think, it isn't just the exam either, it's post-exam. The qualification is key. But as I always say, when we pass our driving test, that's when we learn to drive. So yes, we're absolutely going to provide the ability and the support to get your qualification. But then it's about supporting an individual through the firms and through Primus to then go and be the best mortgage advisor and give the best customer outcomes that they can. And I think really for me, the final thing I'll just say on your question, Matt, is, we've mentioned about some of the length of time of service we've been in the industry. Years ago, training programs were weeks and weeks and weeks as people kind of took their first steps into giving mortgage advice. And I think, we've almost gone back to the future a little bit, I guess, for want of a cheesy expression, in terms of having to realise that the reason that happened is because it worked. And so good level of upfront support to get through the qualification, and then support after through mentoring and post-exam support to how do you become a broker, which I know is a very broad term, but covers so much.
Makes sense, Dave. And I'm really glad you've got Back to the Future into the vodcast today. One of my favourite films. My kids will be pleased with that. So
absolutely.
Good stuff. So James, I think this is probably a good point to bring you in, really. I guess as a lender, you get notified by the network if we get a new advisor. So if the Leeds got a notification to say, hey, we've just registered this new advisor, they've recently passed the CMAP. So we all know, like Dave said, you learn on the road when you've passed your driving test. So someone's fresh, just passed. They literally have just registered. You get the notification. What can the Leeds do to help a brand new broker? And what do you think other lenders should be doing?
Yeah, definitely. I've got something on that. Before we do, though, I'm actually studying for my CMAP at the moment, and to have that level of support compared to just having the book would be extremely valuable. So if you're an advisor that can get to that benefit, then I would definitely make the most of it for someone who's currently got their head in a book trying to just read and make notes. So, but from a Leeds perspective, you're absolutely right. We do get notified when a broker's been registered, and then our sales teams, we've got BDMs across the country and our phone sales teams, they'll be there just to contact. They'll normally send an email just to share their contact information to start off with, and then ideally we'd be looking to go in there and to organise whether it be a face-to-face, telephone or virtual appointment. And the instructions that I always say to our BDMs, when sort of doing a bit of coaching with them, and especially for the ones of my accounts, for a new advisor who won't have had that much experience in the industry. If they're completely brand new, fresh, and you just completed their CMAP, they're not going to have a huge back book of experience in former cases, or know what their local market's going to be like, know what what makes them stand out from the estate agent or from the mortgage advisor down the road. So a lot of the fact finding that you would normally do on a broker visit, you're not going to need to do too much. But also, this person is going to be quite inexperienced, so you don't want to go in there and try and tell them about every single little bit of your proposition. You want to try and keep it really short and succinct, and really specific on, right, I want to come away with you knowing 3 things about us. First one for me would be to make sure you've got your BDMs, telephone number, name and email address, and that you've built that sort of rapport and explained to them how you can support them. And then just to give them a quick overview of what I suppose the best things that lender's known for. I mean, for us, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be something like shared ownership, retirement interest only, or possibly new build. Those are probably the key things I'd be wanting to come away if it was my BDM visit. And then also just the sort of after, like, once we finish this meeting, we're going to rebook in for a month's time when you would have done your first application, and then we can come back and revisit some of the other stuff. And that could be just like a phone call just to catch up, but it's all about trying to build that relationship. But again, just trying to keep things really simple. If you go in for an hour and just talk criteria at them, because they're not going to give anything, they haven't got, unlikely to have loads of cases to go through with you, you're just going to bore them to tears, and they're not going to be able to take it in. So just going, if you can get in and out within sort of half an hour, 45 minutes, and come out with those 3 key things, that would be perfect.
Bang on.
That's great. I mean, obviously, initial support from a lender, and obviously continued as well for somebody that's new to the industry. That's absolutely brilliant. Back to you, Dave. You mentioned in your last answer about, that you'll still be providing the support, promise will be providing support post completion of the exam. What will that look like?
Well, I think the first thing is, being a network as we are with so many different business models, I think the first thing to stress is, we have to always understand these are the firm's individuals that they're bringing in. So the main thing is that we provide the level of support that is needed for the individual, I guess. So certain firms will want to do that themselves, which will have the infrastructure to do that, absolutely. And we wouldn't want to kind of, in any way kind of make that a primus requirement, because the firms are still very much their own business. But on the other hand, there will be a number of firms and a number of individuals that will require and will benefit from additional support. So, we're looking at providing business mentors, for a better job title, I guess, that will be out there, either at the end of the phone or even kind of on client meetings, if that's something, again, without overstepping the mark of the firm. But we have individuals that are purely there, primed with years and years of experience to ultimately step off the qualification and, what do I do now? Help. Well, here's a phone number for someone. Here's some, we can put on little kind of training interventions. We can kind of arrange with the contacts that these individuals will have with James and other kind of BDMs, we can arrange for additional support there. And then even going to as far as, could you just come and listen to an appointment, or could you feedback on the way I present certain things? And so it's really a case of, as a network, providing, like we do in all areas within Primus, it's, well, what support as a firm or an individual do you need? Let's work on what that looks like, and ultimately kind of help with that massive learning kind of steep curve that every new advisor goes through when they get their tick in the box that's required from a qualification point of view to actually becoming a wonderful broker that provides the best customer outcome and the best service and experience for the client, really, which has to be everybody's end result. So it's really a pick and mix, I guess, is the best way I'd describe it, Nikki. The support is whatever somebody would benefit from.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's pretty tailored to how little or how much a firm or an individual actually needs them, really, doesn't it? So,
all being well with the resource that we'll have available. but we will try and accommodate what we can. Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. So just slightly moving off training now then, James. So Matt mentioned it in his introduction earlier as well. There's a lot of talk in the industry about green mortgages and making homes more energy efficient. I've heard Leeds have launched a carbon offset product, which to me is complete jargon. I obviously work on the insurance side of it, so this is fantastic for me to actually say, tell me what it does and, how does it work?
Right, and I have actually prepared some props, so give me a second.
Exciting.
I'm excited too.
Right.
Brilliant.
Can you see that okay?
We can indeed.
Brilliant. Right, so this is a house. It's currently Sue's house. Oh, I'm not sure if Sue's going to be able to stand up throughout this whole period, but yeah, so we've got Sue's house. Now, Sue's house, Sue's one of the very few people at the moment who's actually got a house on the market. And Sue's house currently creates 4.2 tons. So I've got my black dark chips there and the 2p to create the 4.2 tons worth of carbon each year, and we've worked that out from using the back book of mortgages that we've got at the moment. So each house creates that 4.2 tons worth of carbon each year. Now at the moment we've got a 95% loan to value carbon offset product. So Sam, who's coming along to buy a house, fortunately he's been agreed and accepted by Leeds Building Society in super quick time. He's got his offer, he's ready to go. But from his point of view, he's now one of those purchasers at 95%. They've got the lowest deposit, so it's unlikely that he's going to have excess funds at the moment or free income to make sort of retrofit sort of procedures. So by fitting new windows, putting a new boiling or heating system in, then he's unlikely to have the money to be able to sort of make those sort of amendments to the house right at this time. So for what is effectively then going to be a sort of short to medium term fix, Leeds Building Society will take our own money. So there's my £4 and 2p, just to keep the maths nice and straightforward, and we're going to invest that into what's called carbon credits. So there's my green chips with my 4.2 tons worth of them. Carbon credits is what companies can buy to offset their carbon production. So the money that is spent on those then goes and gets invested into projects that effectively take carbon away from our atmosphere. So there's loads of different ones. Planting significant amounts of trees would be the first one that comes to mind. For those of you sort of football fans, you might have noticed a few weeks ago Chelsea had the first ever carbon neutral game, or supposedly so, and they've done exactly the same thing in investing into carbon credits that made sure that effectively the carbon that the game produced was then offsetted. So going back to our house, it means that when Sam comes to buy the property, we've invested the money to buy the carbon credits. So it means that effectively then for the fixed term of this mortgage, so let's say he's taken out a 5-year period, a 5-year fixed term, then effectively this house is not going to be is going to be carbon neutral for the whole of that 5-year period, giving him the time then to sell, or when to save up, or to even then remortgage at the end of the time to be able to then make changes to the property to bring down the carbon footprint. There you go.
Amazing, mate. What a wicked explanation, and the props worked really well, mate. I don't know how I can follow that even with a question, to be honest. So thanks, James. Really good. I will follow it with a question. It's all about EPC ratings, isn't it, at the moment? So what EPC rating do customers need to have to qualify for that product you've just talked about?
Yeah, it doesn't have a specific EPC rating. So, and we do have other green products where there are, financial benefits to having a EPC A to C, and that's on buy-to-let and resi products. But on this one in particular, there is no specific rating that the property has to have. It can be any, F, whatever. We will still be paying that money to buy those credits to offset the carbon that's going to be created by that property.
Sounds good. I'm going to ask you a controversial question, which you probably get asked when you talk about this product. You've heard of greenwashing. Isn't it just greenwashing? Will it actually make an impact?
Yeah, it's a good point, because I think the to make for the industry to really make a big indent, lenders are going to have to look at their back book of properties. But for now, and as I say, we are offsetting. We're not actually reducing what carbon comes out of this property. We're not actually stopping it. And at the moment, properties are responsible for 14% of the UK's carbon emissions. So it's a big thing to have to try and bring down. But what it does do is it's going to be a sort of short to medium term sort of fix. And as I say, it's not going to solve global warming straight away, but it's a start. It's a move in the right direction for us, and it's something that's making an impact now rather than in 5, 6, 10 years time.
Love it, mate. To be fair, thanks. Really informative. So I guess to wrap this session up, then, James, if someone wants to get in touch, who's watching this back with one of your BDMs, you mentioned through the whole CMAP piece about talking to a BDM. You've just gone through some product stuff. How do we contact one of your BDMs?
Yeah, so it's really straightforward. If you go onto our website, I think it's in the top right-hand corner or on the right-hand side, there's a part that says contact us. And on there is a postcode finder. You put in your postcode and your BDM's details will come up, their phone number, email address, and a little bit about them. So you get to know them a little bit even before you make the phone call. And then you can also find me, James Chutter, on LinkedIn.
Love it, mate. Thank you muchly. Nice and simple. Dave, same question to you. You've talked about CMAP. How do people register their interest with Primis if they're interested in doing this?
Yeah, so it's really a simple case of come through myself. So I'm kind of managing this through. So my email address is david.woodbridge@primis.co.uk. And that applies for our firms within, if they're interested in finding out more, or if you're sitting there with thinking about a career change or looking to get into financial services, then again, let's have a conversation and drop me an email and we can try and start that ball rolling.
Awesome. Nikki, I've learned loads of you.
Absolutely. And look, the first person to bring props on as well, James. So yeah, brilliant.
You really showed me up there, James. Thank you for that one.
And you've set the bar for future podcast presenters, Absolutely. Mate, I think. Lovely. Well, nice to see you both, and we'll see you soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.